fuel canisters, and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
What is up? What is up, YouTube? Trump Tower cyber explosion. I'm letting y'all know you got to fight it. Believe in what you're doing. This is not easy making these videos. We finally finished the video, and then we accidentally, I'm going to say my team did it. Tahir, we're going to blame Tahir all the time. He accidentally, instead of saving it, he hit delete. And he said, I know I hit save. No, I said right here and watch you hit delete. But anyway, we're doing it all over again. So I thought it was kind of interesting, man, the information they're getting out of this. And one of the things that I was saying was, I'm thinking that this person rented a Tesla to tie Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Apparently this person is upset with Trump being the president. Elon Musk is helping them. I put it to you like this. As far as Donald Trump and what he's trying to do with the borders, I'm down with that. I'm really down with that. And Elon Musk behind them, but also they doing some crooked stuff too. They stuff is not as crooked, but you got to do some crooked stuff to compete. You get what I'm saying? So without any further ado, let's check this bad boy out again for me. Here we go, y'all.
Thanks, Metropolitan Police Department. I'm here to give you really a brief update on what occurred on Las Vegas Boulevard this morning. As you know, we just had our New Year's Eve event where we successfully protected the city, where over 400,000 people were here last night. And that changed this morning at about 8:40 when a 2024 Tesla Cybertruck pulled into the area valet of the Trump International Hotel. Very quickly thereafter that, the driver, who was the sole occupant of the truck, we saw what looked like maybe some sort of smoke, and then the truck exploded. Smoke was coming from inside of the truck after we noticed the flash and the explosion, and I'm gonna show you that first video. That's the Cybertruck parked right in front of the doors.
Oh, man.
Can you play that again, Carlos? So the individual that was in that truck is obviously deceased.
Around this time, I said something like, it looked like he had some type of fireworks in there, kind of sparkles and stuff like that went off. I had said that right here.
Still in the truck as we speak here
and
today.
The reason why I'm saying it like that, because
fire department folks, Engine 12,
I was right.
A number of others. You'll hear from one of the fire chiefs here in just a moment. Arrived very quickly, along with my officers. And obviously, we knew that we had a much larger event than just a vehicle fire. And so there's going to be a drone video that plays to my left again. You'll see as the fire initially, they covered it with the tarp to try to get it to go out. Once the fire went out through the suppression efforts of the fire department, you'll see some of the evidence in the back of the vehicle. So those are gasoline canisters. They are camp fuel canisters and large firework mortars. What I also would like you to pay attention to on that video, as you see that, it looks like the exterior of that truck is completely intact as it sits there. The fact that this was a Cybertruck really limited the damage that occurred inside of the valet, because it had most of the blast go up through the truck and out. In fact, if you look on that video, you'll see that the front glass doors at the Trump hotel were not even broken by that blast, which they were parked directly in front of. You can see that in the video there.
I'm assuming that top is like fireproof.
What I will update, I'm very well aware that there's a name already been reported out into the media. I am not going to confirm any names to you as I sit here today because I cannot do that with 100% certainty of who the individual is. What I can tell you is we do know the truck was rented in Colorado. We were able to trace that truck through the Tesla charging stations, and it arrived here in Las Vegas this morning at about 7:30 and went up and down Las Vegas Boulevard before immediately pulling into the Trump Towers. Unfortunately, there were 7 people that reported injuries during this incident. All of them still remain as minor injuries and were treated at UMC. I would like to thank the Resorts World because, as you know, we had to close down the Trump and evacuate it, as well as the Fashion Show Mall. And the Resorts World was very gracious in taking those hundreds of individuals in over there, housing them and feeding them prior to us being able to completely clear the hotel. The hotel and Fashion Show are back open for business. The Trump will remain closed as we continue this lengthy investigation as we move forward. I'm going to yield now to Chief Billy Samuels, but I'd like you to also recognize all of our exceptional elected officials that have come to support the police and the fire department and this community in remaining safe. There is no further threat to the community as I sit here today. And I just want to make sure that our community understands we believe this to be an isolated incident, and it is now over as far as the danger. So, Billy?
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm going to reiterate some of the stuff that the Sheriff has spoken upon. Engine 12 did arrive within 4 minutes of dispatch, did extinguish the fire with assistance from the sprinkler systems, and along with that electric vehicle blanket that we use on those operations. We did encounter 7 victims, all stable. 2 of them were transported to UMC, who have since been released. They were transported by community ambulance. A total of 13 units from Clark County Fire with 26 personnel, and then 4 units and 17 personnel from Las Vegas Fire and Rescue assisted with this operation. We always do appreciate the support that we get from our hotel partners, as the Sheriff was mentioning with Resorts World. RTC did lend us 10 buses so we can refuge the people that were evacuated from the Trump Tower. Community Ambulance for their transportation for us, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue, and Nevada Division of Emergency Management. And we do appreciate their support, so we can't do that without them. And like the Sheriff said, last night was a huge success, but we are prepared for whatever comes our way. So thank you for that. And I will turn this over to Special Agent in Charge, Jeremy Schwartz.
Okay. And this guy put on some great information.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremy Schwartz. I'm currently the acting special agent in charge for the FBI here in Las Vegas. The FBI is currently conducting an investigation on a vehicle explosion, as the Sheriff had just shown you a little bit ago. That's being conducted through our JTTF, which is a Joint Terrorism Task Force. I want to make sure everybody understands that the task force is comprised of law enforcement officials from the entire valley here. We're not doing anything alone, and we wouldn't do anything alone without our partners making sure that we're all in lockstep. We've learned from mistakes in the past, and we're not going to do that again. We have a great relationship with our law enforcement partners, and we're going to continue to do so. As of right now, our number one goal is to ensure that we have the proper identification of the subject involved in this incident. Following that, our second objective is to determine whether this was an act of terrorism or not. I know everybody's interested in that word and trying to see if we can say, hey, this is a terrorist attack. That is our goal, and that's what we're trying to do. We have a ton of resources dedicated to this right now, and again, we're doing it with our partners. We're doing it together, jointly, and we'll continue to do so until we figure out exactly what's going on. I think most importantly, as the Sheriff already mentioned, we believe this is an isolated incident. We do not believe that there's a bunch of folks out there supporting this or helping this, and we don't believe that there's any other danger to the community right now. But again, over the next few hours and days, we will continue to do our best to research that as much as we can and get to the bottom of this, and we won't stop until we're 100% certain as to what happened and why. Thank you.
So I just want to clarify again so that I don't get these questions. We do know who rented the truck. We are looking at that individual, but I am not prepared to release the name of any of the individuals that we are looking at. at least until next of kin is notified and we have a 100% identification. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have. I can't see. Hi, Dana.
Do you think it's a coincidence that there were these kinds of incidents on the same day, basically, in two tourism capitals?
Do I think it's a coincidence? I don't know, but what I can tell you is we're absolutely investigating any connectivity to what happened in New Orleans, as well as other attacks that have been occurring around the world. We're not ruling anything out yet, Dana.
Is there any possibility that this had a link to ISIS? There have been suggestions that the New Orleans attack might have.
Yeah, so the question is there any links to ISIS? And I will tell you that we don't have any indication of that here in Las Vegas. No overt ISIS flag as was seen in New Orleans. But again, we are investigating every aspect of this. And if that comes to light, we'll certainly update you. I'm sorry, sir.
What was the time between the truck's arrival and the explosion?
About 1 hour was the amount of time between the arrival of the truck here in Las Vegas, or at least our first notification of the arrival and the explosion that occurred at the tower.
How long was it in the porte-cochere before the explosion?
It was only there for about, it was sitting in the porte-cochere for about 15 seconds before it exploded. Was that 15? Where'd Dory go? 15 to 20 seconds. I just want to make sure I gave you the right info.
Connection of the Elon Musk, Tesla, Donald Trump connection to be interesting from an investigative perspective?
Well, I mean, it's a Tesla truck, and we know that Elon Musk is working with President-elect Trump, and it's the Trump Tower, so there's obviously things to be concerned about there, and that's something we continue to look at.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know. That's what I wanted to know right there.
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. Do we need to re-examine security procedures? We were very successful in the night before.
And the thing that tripped me out is that's a rental truck. That Tesla was a rental, so that guy went and rented that vehicle to point at Elon Musk. Yeah, that's what I'm
surprised this happened, to be quite frank with you, and that's certainly something we're going to have to look at in target hardening, what that looks like. But to your question, Dana, I did forget to mention that I have authorized what we call an ABX roster to continue for the next 2 days, which is my New Year's Eve staffing plan of over 1,000 officers, both in our community neighborhoods as well as on the Strip and downtown, in partnership with all of the other law enforcement agencies, City of Las Vegas Marshals, North Las Vegas Henderson, just to ensure that even if we had a copycat or somebody else wanted to go up and conduct an attack, that we have the appropriate and available resources to handle it.
Have you all found any devices inside the Cybertruck that could have been used to set off those explosives?
No, the question is, did we find any devices that would be used to set off the explosives? And the answer is no, I don't know how they were ignited. Clearly, with what you see in there, something set them off, but I don't know what it was yet. We haven't been able to process the vehicle yet.
Has LVMPD been in contact with Tesla Code to get analytics from the vehicle, cameras?
Yes, actually, I have to thank Elon Musk specifically. He gave us quite a bit of additional information in regards to how the vehicle was locked after it exploded due to the force of the nature of the force from the explosion, as well as being able to capture all of the video from the Tesla charging stations across the country, and he sent that directly to us, so I appreciate his help on that. I'll take one more question.
Elon Musk is claiming that this
I'm sorry, you got to speak up for me.
Elon Musk is saying this vehicle and the vehicle in New Orleans were rented from the same company. Has there been any other indication that these two events might be associated?
It's another. The question is both vehicles? I'm being told New Orleans was rented from Toro, and so was ours. That's another coincidence that absolutely is continuing to bear from our investigation that we have to continue to look into. So thank you very much. And as we get additional information for all of you, I'm sorry, I'll give you a shot.
Are investigators using any of these city license plate readers?
That's
rented from Toro.
Question
So
is,
that
are
was
we
a
using the license
private-owned
plate readers
vehicle.
and the technology? Well, one, you see the drone flight through the vehicle because it was unsafe to get there, so that we're using that technology. Thankful to have it, as well as the first indication of that vehicle arriving here in Las Vegas came from a license plate reader. So technology has been very useful to us in resolving this. And again, I'll commit to come back to you all when we have confirmation of the suspect's name, who they are, what their background is. we will get that information back out to you. We'll call another press conference and provide it. And I just like to, again, thank the mayor, the commissioners, the other law enforcement leaders, and of course our Attorney General for showing up and supporting us in this event. It's been a statewide effort, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Then my next video was this one.
And welcome back, everyone. It's 2 Live now from Fox. We continue to bring you the very latest out of New Orleans and in Las Vegas. We want to go back out right now really quickly out to Colorado Springs, Colorado, because right now the FBI is investigating the Vegas explosion with a possible connection to Colorado and 3 other states. We brought you this right before we went to a 2-minute break, and now we are getting some more updates from the FBI field office in Denver. Take a look at this. FBI Denver, the Denver Field Division of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, that's the ATF, and Explosives, and the Colorado Springs Police Department are conducting law enforcement activity at a residential address in Colorado Springs. FBI Denver personnel and specialized teams will be on site for several hours. This activity is related to the explosion in Las Vegas on Wednesday. Due to the ongoing nature of the investigation, no further information will be provided out of Denver. So let's give you another live look here at the scene of this community right now, where we have local police and federal investigators that are on scene here in connection with the Vegas explosion of the Tesla Cybertruck that happened yesterday late morning out in Las Vegas at Trump's property there. So we are keeping an eye on all of the updates coming out of not only the Cybertruck incident, but of course New Orleans as well. It has been very busy these last couple of days, especially busy to start the new year, and especially just a very sad tone to start with just so many dead out in New Orleans, 15 dead, more than 30 injured in that attack. Let's go back out now to Bourbon Street. A local Fox affiliate reporter is out there
and then,
covering.
Last but not least, I didn't realize that was so short. Death toll rises. Let me go. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep. We lost the video, man. I thought that was the more important one, but this one right here, y'all, check this out. Check this out. Watch this. Watch this. It's this one right here. I thought they showed the video. Check this out.
We do have national security analyst 𝗟𝗡𝗞𝗦. He's standing by as well. And Hal, ultimately, what we talk about during these situations, especially in the early moments of the investigation with something like this, is what can we glean from what police are telling us so far? And so far, what police are telling us is that the man perhaps drove from Colorado Springs. We knew that Kennedy was over there by the house where they were investigating. And my curiosity here, Hal, is when we're talking about a situation like this, what factoids are they searching for in that suspect's home? Are they trying to pull stuff off of computers? Any physical evidence? What are they looking for?
Austin, they're looking for a little bit of everything. Now, obviously, yes, they're trying to pull everything from his computers. They're going to look at his cell phone. They're going to look at any way that he's communicating. They're going to be looking at his financial status, his personal status. I think they're going to find out a lot from his personal status. He apparently was having some marital difficulties. In fact, I have a feeling that when they get into it, that's going to be the primary reason why he did what he did. But they're going to basically build a profile of who he was, trying to figure out his motivation for what he was doing. And of course, one of the things they're going to look at, because they started the investigation looking at it as a potential act of terrorism, is to find out, is he tied to any extremist beliefs, any extremist causes? And it doesn't look like that's the case. But with that said, there have been members of the military that have been recruited into violent extremist groups in the past. Need I remind you, Major Nadal Hassan, the Fort Hood shooter, who had violent Islamic extremist beliefs. If you want to go back further, Timothy McVeigh, the Oklahoma City bomber, he was Army, a veteran. So they're going to be looking to see if that's possible, if he was brought in. However, there are some things that are rather inconsistent with that as they go on. The bomb was rather limited considering his background and capabilities. He was a master sergeant in special forces. Certainly he knows a lot about explosive ordnance and how to build a bomb. And that was not a well-constructed bomb, but it's not clear if that was meant to be a destructive bomb or if the destruction of the bomb was simply aimed at destroying whatever was inside the vehicle himself, which was basically himself. And then, of course, the other thing is that, it's become clear that he took his own life with apparently that Desert Eagle 50 caliber pistol prior to the explosion taking place. So they're going to try and piece all this together, try to build a psychological profile, figure out what his goals, what his motivations were, to find out, was he tied to any other extremist, or was he tied to an extremist group? Is there an ongoing threat? Is there something that they should be looking at, or was this a lone wolf style event? In this case, the lone wolf was a suicide that was rather a very big suicide, very high profile suicide, obviously. But if you look at his operational tempo, being in special forces, being deployed all the time, it's a sad but true reflection that certainly for the last 20, 25 years, that the operational tempo of the armed forces is so great, particularly in the special operations community, that it does incur a psychological and emotional cost on our troops. And the suicide rates are just extraordinarily high, and I would say very unacceptable. And that may be, at the root of the problem.
One of my big questions here is, and we don't know how much experience this person had with whatever type of munition perhaps was in that Cybertruck. You talked about Oklahoma City, Hal, and we were kind of discussing that in the newsroom earlier today. The comparison of a truck being outside of a large building, and then explosives going off. Is it possible that this person, however this played out, perhaps thought that this explosion would be bigger than it actually turned out to be?
I think he probably thought it was, based on, they went in there and looked at it. He bought stuff that was, basically available at retail level. He bought fireworks mortars, if you will. He may have bought a very low grade explosive that's called tannerite, that's used on shooting ranges for long range shooting. You put the tannerite behind the target, and if you hit it, it makes a little explosion. So if you're doing stuff like long range sniper or long range shooting, you can actually see when you hit the target very clearly, because there's a little explosion that takes place. And that's actually been involved. There was a case in Los Angeles where somebody, he didn't actually end up getting charged with terrorism, but we're pretty sure he was planning a terrorist attack, had lots of tannerite on him, and that was what they thought he was probably going to do. And then, of course, he also had basically an accelerant gas, if you will, that was used in the vehicle as well. Now, obviously, what he had, he would have to know that would not cause an explosion, certainly anything even remotely similar to what you saw in Oklahoma City. But he may have thought he was going to get a bigger explosion out of it. And because when they went in there, they found out that a lot of this, basically the fireworks, if you will, closely together, but it didn't cause a big sympathetic detonation. Some of it blew up, and some of it just kind of sat there inert. And so he didn't get the explosive factor he was aiming at. And I would bring out something else. Being a master sergeant in special forces, and I don't claim to know all these things, but as you know, I kind of have a background with a kind of a couple of special operations units. And yes, we went out and blew up a lot of stuff. Okay. And so you get kind of familiar with how that works. He would have enough knowledge to understand how those explosives would work and what their limitations were. He'd also probably have a pretty good idea of the vehicle he'd want. And it's very possible that, whereas people are saying he picked the wrong vehicle for causing an explosion, he may have picked that vehicle because it did have the reinforced sides that would not cause a lateral explosive effect that would cause a lot of collateral damage. So that may have been something I was thinking. That's something I'm sure that FBI investigators are going to look at, which is,
that's why
did he
picked it.
intentionally pick that vehicle? You know, in part maybe to make a statement because it's, you know, Tesla and aligned with Elon Musk, and the explosion took place at
So he won't hurt
the
people.
Trump International Hotel. But could it also have been because he was looking at the vehicle dynamics themselves and trying to contain the blast in a way that most of the blast causes the damage within the vehicle, destroying, as you heard the sheriff talk about, you know, completely just, you know, incinerate his remains. And that may have been part of his calculus. And I know it sounds strange, but you know, for certain parts of the military, you know, we think through issues like that. You think through what the battle damage assessment will be and what it'll look like. And, you know, and he may have, in his whatever convoluted stuff that was going through his brain at the time, that may have been something he was thinking about. So I can't rule that out at this point.
Got to ask you about New Orleans as well. So we got these images in the past hour. The FBI releasing these new images of the suspect who was near Bourbon Street more than an hour before the attack. This was him pacing around the exact area that he would later plow through the crowd. The FBI is asking witnesses who passed him on the street or saw this blue ice chest containing the IED to contact them, to contact them, by the way. If anybody did see anybody dressed like this, they're looking for more photos, they're looking for more information. They are still doing a lot of fact-finding behind the scenes here. I'm going to read one of the paragraphs here, Hal. They say, this is surveillance footage from 2:03 a.m. Central Time, about an hour before the crash. This is the suspect as he walked along a street near Governor Nichols Street. The footage shows the suspect dressed in a light brown long coat, a dark-colored button-down shirt, blue jeans, and what appears to be brown dress shoes. The FBI also, as you see there, releasing a photo of one of the coolers containing an IED, which was placed by the suspect near the intersection. I got this question a lot on social media earlier today when we posted this. Can you just explain in layman's terms, what does IED mean, Hal, and why are these photos important with this investigation?
Well, IED stands for improvised explosive device. He had basically built a couple of bombs that, and information coming out today has indicated that they had a remote detonator in the truck with him to set off a couple of bombs. That's the improvised explosive devices. As you see, the container that he used was a cooler right there, and that's how those 4 individuals they were looking at earlier. Apparently, there were 4 individuals, 3 men and 1 woman, who had expressed curiosity about these containers on Bourbon Street, and may have opened up, looked at them, or done something. And so the FBI initially was looking for them as possible accomplices because they thought maybe they were the ones that set these things out. Of course, it turns out that's not the case. It was something he had set out. One of the things I would point out, too, is look at how he's dressed. It's very low key. It's the sort of thing that if you were to walk onto, if you were doing intentional surveillance of Bourbon Street, that would be a perfect attire. You wouldn't really draw any attention to yourself. It's very understated. It would certainly fit the sort of, you know, bar nightclub sort of atmosphere that is Bourbon Street, particularly around New Year's. So he was able to do something, and I think we, you know, may have talked on the air about this yesterday when this story first came out about the possibility he was doing pre-attack surveillance, because you look at the method that he went in there. You know, the timing of when he went in, going around the police car on the sidewalk down Bourbon Street, to me, that indicates that he did some rather detailed pre-attack surveillance, and this kind of confirms what was most likely there, which is he actually parked somewhere, got out of his vehicle, walked the street, looked at what was there. You'd be, you know, in his mind, he's looking for, okay, what's blocking the street, or where are there ways I can get around whatever's blocking the street, which is exactly what he did. And then he'd be looking on the street to find out, are there any obstacles that he would run into on the street? Is there something set up? Is there, you know, something that could slow him down? And once he had done that, he basically finalized his plans and then he drove around went around the police car that was blocking or insufficiently blocking Bourbon Street, and then just basically accelerated and caused all that carnage along Bourbon Street.
I got to ask you too, Hal, because you're touching on something that I am very curious about. What's the standard line of defense against attacks like this? Obviously, police can line up vehicles to act as barricades. In fact, one of the security camera footage that we saw showed the suspect driving right around a police car in order to do what he did. But I've seen a lot of chatter about bollards as well, Hal.
Yes, well, the bollards are these heavy-duty, if you will, round stanchions that fit well into the street. If a vehicle hits them, they'll stop them cold. Now, the older style stuff is what they actually have on the street right now, which is it's difficult to explain, but it's kind of like a mini ramp that raises up, and it raises up in the direction of the oncoming traffic. So as a vehicle would hit it with its tires, they would basically be caught, and it would slow the vehicle down, if not stop it completely, because it couldn't keep moving forward. And then there's a couple of obstacles that are heavy steel obstacles. Same concept. The vehicle hits it, and they basically act like a block that stops or slows the vehicle down. In both those cases, the vehicle would not be able to do an accelerated movement down the street. At most, they would be moving very, very slowly down the street if they could move at all. That's what they have out there now. One of the reasons they have these bollards, which apparently were in for maintenance, and that's one that everybody's questioning. By the way, the governor of Louisiana has this afternoon started making some very pointed comments about New Orleans and their lack of preparedness on this. But they had taken those bollards out. They did not replace them with the things I just talked about, and they used that police cruiser. Now what you see is, in fact, if you look at this picture, you'll see this heavy-duty truck, high clearance that they often use in flooding events and stuff. That's what they're using now. That's a vehicle that covers a lot more space, very difficult to move around. And then you see that thing with the little ramp thing that comes up. That's on there now. The reason they weren't using the ramp initially, it's a very common thing to use, but the reason they weren't using it was because they had a maintenance problem and a functionality problem. One of the things that probably wasn't built into the planning was one thing that would defeat it, which was the beads, those beads that they hand out on Bourbon Street. And so people were going by and throwing the beads into the mechanism of the automatic block, if you will, the ramp thing that comes
stuck in the machinery.
It shuts down the machinery. And that's why they'd said, okay, we can't use this on Bourbon Street anymore because everybody keeps coming by, and there may have been alcohol involved when they were throwing the beads into the machinery itself. And so it was jamming it up all the time. And they finally said, we've got to come up with a better idea. So they came up with the bollards. They used the bollards. But of course, this just sounds like perfect bureaucracy, as you take down the bollards, and they didn't have the other thing in place. And it was an opening. And obviously he went down, he walked the street, he saw what could be done, he came up with a plan, and he did it. And I would mention he has a military background. He wasn't special forces or anything, but he has enough military background where he can put together a plan sufficient to figure out what's done. And by the way, that idea of a vehicle-borne attack, you didn't have to think too much, because ISIS puts out stuff online explaining to people, this is how you do a vehicle ramming attack. So it was all in there. By the way,
I got to go in 2 minutes, Hal. I got to ask you really quick, but just before we go in 2 minutes here, because the ISIS connection, there's a difference between being a member of ISIS and being inspired by ISIS. Can you explain?
Well, what is a member of ISIS? It's often somebody, sometimes you hear it explained, they go, well, are they a card-carrying, current dues-paying member of ISIS? It's a terrorist organization. There's a big difference between what we see in the past, where there are people who actually went to ISIS training camps, and then they infiltrated back into, say, Europe or something and did a big attack in Paris and stuff like that. He's somebody who falls into another category, and we've seen this with Al-Qaeda. We've seen this with other groups as well. They go online. They're going down a radical path. They get recruited online. Somewhere, someone's guiding them. And what they end up doing is they end up basically becoming, self-recruited, if you will, in some ways, that they affiliate with ISIS without ever having formally become part of ISIS. And they are inspired. In fact, ISIS tells them, go out and do your own sort of entrepreneurial attacks. And they give them all sorts of stuff. And that's where it's looking more and more that he fell in that category. We don't see any international travel that would be associated with the previous example of being formally trained or something. What we're seeing is that somehow he got recruited. What the FBI wants to know, was this just a virtual thing, or was there actually somebody like a physical recruiter, maybe that was hanging out at a mosque or something like that, that may have, spotted him? And by the way, I should mention, military are prime recruits for extremist groups. They're always looking for somebody with military experience.
To
and
hurt
it's not
people.
that the military is any larger percentage of extremists. It's just that they have training, skills, capabilities that if they are brought into an extremist movement, they can potentially be much more dangerous than your average civilian.
𝗟𝗚𝗡𝗞𝗦, as always.
These military people are committing suicide, y'all. So
we appreciate you, Hal. We'll talk to you soon.
the numbers
thanks,
are
Austin.
way too big, like he was saying. My biggest video shoot job was the Veterans Affair, and the guy who got me the job to shoot the video and stuff for Veterans Affair, and I went all out to do this big payoff day, man. They paid me and everything. And then he turned around and committed suicide. And the part that bothers me the most is the whole Veterans Affair, this celebration was to raise awareness of victims committing suicide. And I couldn't believe how this guy had a little daughter. He talked, yeah, man, we got to all do things to help these people from committing suicide. You would think that he would never, ever, ever even, he's trying to help people. They need people to talk to, man. Come talk to me if you have any problems. And then he turned around and committed suicide. So you never know, man. You never know. The military is making people freak out. That's all I know. Some can handle it, some can't. That's all I'm going to say. Some can handle it and some can't. But I know one thing. I worked with somebody else that was in the Army and he committed suicide. I'm too nosy. I want to know exactly how this life of mine is going to end on its own. I'm not trying to help it. So I just want to help people, man. So come to our live stream and all that. If you need somebody to talk to, get in the chat. It's a big family. We're growing and you won't be overlooked. I'm going to get on up out of here. Y'all take it light, take it slow. Tell them Uncle Mike told you so. This is so sad, man. Let's help each other. Help people. Peace out.